Hello, everyone. This is Reganelite here with supposedly another episode of the Eco Flake show. I don't know what's happened to One Angry Pagan. I have wanted to give him a chance to come in. Sometimes some people run. Sometimes when I'm having host people guests, there is the occasions where people run late. The only way I can contact him is via Discord. So I don't know what's happened to him. His last messages was at 3 o'clock. And I haven't heard anything since. So all I can do is he does have a link here to the stream so that he can jump in if he does appear. But I am going to give it a shot. Bear in mind that pretty much most of the content that I have is content by Pagan. So my knowledge is not as in-depth as his is when it comes to this stuff, guys. That is the reality of it. That's why I kind of need him here when it comes to this kind of topics, especially when it's articles and content that he got as well for the show. We're already 10 minutes gone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it and then analyze it the best I possibly can for you guys until he turns up. If he doesn't turn up, then obviously I'm not going to go through every single article that I've got here. But if by 9 o'clock it's just been me the whole time, I'm going to end the stream pretty much. I'm not going to do in a whole hour and a half, guys. Bearing in mind that I'm not feeling too well this evening as it is. So we're going to start with this one here from Sky News, you guys. And this one is an analysis piece by Sky News about the energy price cap. So it's about the changing the face of your bill as poverty and climate demands grow. So Sky's Paul Kisso said there is an increasing influence from changes other than wholesale energy prices within the bills that households should understand. Now, it would be so much easier if I could just play the videos for you guys. The problem is that StreamYard really does slow my streams down, and sometimes it could cause the streams to crash if I play it. It would make things a lot easier if I could play the videos, but unfortunately I can't here with this setup. But there's a lot of factors into why energy bills are going up. A lot of the money that is being raised, if it is both, some of it is going towards the network, maintaining networks. Some of it is going towards our change to transition to green energy as well. Some of it, of course, is going towards keeping businesses happy. Because of the model that we have, obviously, energy companies need to be able to make a profit of some sorts as well. Because obviously, if they don't make any money, what good is the energy companies from their point of view as well? But the main one, of course, is obviously when the war in Ukraine started. That's when we really had a damage in our energy bills. That's when the gas prices really did rise, and I would say we haven't recovered from it, but we are. The problem is that because we haven't really upgraded our infrastructure and transitioned as quickly as we would like, when it comes to energy, we are still rocking way behind many other European countries when it comes to our energy. And the problem isn't that we don't have enough. I wouldn't say we do need more wind farms and solar panels, of course. The problem is getting that energy from where we need it to be, because obviously quite a majority of it is in Scotland, in parts of Wales and whatnot. But obviously it's not just them. It needs to be in. It's not just in those countries that it needs to be. Obviously England needs that energy as well. So it's obviously a case of getting that energy from A to B as well. So there's a cost to that, and there's obviously the cost of maintaining all these networks as well. So these are some of the reasons why that, and based on the analysis pieces from Paul here that I looked at, it looks like that this is not going to be changing anytime soon. There's going to be more increases in energy, unfortunately. It's not going to be changing anytime soon, guys, which is very frustrating. Not even in the short term, possibly in the medium term we may do, but all of this could go out the window if Reform UK comes in as a government, because obviously their position is, of course, anything climate change and green energy. It's all the hoax. It's all the waste of money. And we know they're being paid by the likes of Nigel Farage and these and his ilk are being paid by oil and gas lobbyists anyway. So they would undo pretty much everything that this Labour government is currently doing. So if they come into power at the next general election, that is the price that we will all pay, for this. So let's read a bit into this, guys. So the small increase in domestic energy bills announced today confirms that prices have stabilized since the ruinous spikes that followed Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but remain 40% higher than before the war, around 20% in real terms, with little change of falling in the medium term. But any annual increase in the annual cost of gas and electricity is unwelcome. But at 2%, it is so marginal that in practice, many consumers will not notice unless they pay close attention to their consumption. So regular Ofgem uses a notional figure or typical annual consumption of gas and electricity to capture the impact of price changes, which has shown a £34 increase to £1,755. So this is what the national average that people will spend typically on their energy bills is what it is. But obviously that is not a fixed rate, it's fluctuated depending on how more or less gas and electricity you use in your home, pretty much. At least then £3 a month is a small increase that could be wiped out by a warm week in October, double or by an early cold snap, and only applies to those households that pay a variable rate for their power. Yeah, if we get an early cold snap, that's not good. That's super bad. It's super, super bad. That number is declining as 37% of customers now take advantage of cheaper fixed rate deals that have returned to the market, as well as direct debit payment options often not available to those struggling the most. Ofgem's headline number is useful as a guide, but what really counts is how much energy you use, and the cap regulator applies to underlying prices of standard charges. Just checking that. So I just need to keep an eye on Discord, guys, just to see if he responds. Yeah, he still hasn't responded. Here, the maximum chargeable rate for electricity rises from 25.73 pence per kilowatt to 26.35 per pence, while the cost of gas actually falls from 6.33 kilowatts to 6.76p. Daily standard charge for both increase, however, by a total of 70p. Yeah, this is because obviously while obviously the use of gas is falling, which is a good thing. One of the things said in the video, which again I can't play because of StreamYard. One of the things that was stated obviously is that while we are decreasing our reliance on gas, we still have a gas network we need to pay for and we need to maintain, because we still have many households that still use gas, and we ain't at a problem there. Is the pagan out throwing swords at flag people? I don't know where he is. The last message I got from him was at 3 o'clock. So I don't know. My only way of contacting him is via Discord. So he's got invite and everything. I don't know where he is, guys, honestly. So I'm attempting to do this solo. So if he does happen to appear, obviously I'll get him in, but because he has the link to join. But at the moment I'm running solo, and I'm not going to go an hour and a half. I'm going to go an hour and see how I do here. So from 6.33 per kilowatts to 6.26 daily standard charge for both increase, however by a total of 7p. So that increase provides an insight into the factors that will determine prices today and in future. The biggest factor remains the international price of wholesale gas. And it was what drove prices in the north of £4,000 a year after the pipelines to Russia were turned off, and has dragged them back as Norway and liquid natural gas imported from the US, Australia, and Qatar has filled the gap. The long-term solution to replace reliance on gas with renewable low-carbon sources of energy by shifting the balance comes with an upfront cost shared by all bill payers. So too is the cost of energy poverty that has soared since 2022. And this can all get thrown in the can by a reform government at the next general election. It's really important to stress that, because they will scrap any projects, any green energy projects and whatnot. You know, if I'm an energy, like, I would be hesitant to invest in Britain for clean green energy, knowing that a reform government will want to undo your project. This price cap includes an increase to cover balancing costs. So these are fees typically paid to renewable generators to stop producing electricity, because the national grid can't always handle the transfer of power from Scotland, where the bulk is produced, to the south, where the lion's share is consumed. This is why we need to upgrade our national infrastructure. This is crucial. There is also an increase to cover the expenditure of the Wards House discount, a £150 payment extended to 2.7 million people by the government during the horrendous process of withdrawing, and then partially reinstating the winter fuel payments to pensioners. And while the unit price of gas has actually fallen, the daily standard charge, which covers the cost of maintaining the gas network, has risen by 4p, somewhat counterintuitive because we are using less. While warmer weather and greater efficiency of homes means consumption has fallen, the cost of maintaining the network remains, and that has to be shared across fewer units of gas. So experts that tend to be magnified as gas use declines, but remains essential to maintaining energy supply. The electricity supply at a short notice on the grid is dominated by renewables. And as we can expect further increases to come next year, when the cost of building the new nuclear power station at Sizewell C starts to appear on the bill. So yeah, apparently we, the taxpayer, we're going to be paying for the new nuclear power station. That's expected to add around £10 to every bill for the next 40 years. As with wind power and grid upgrades, the future benefits are paid for today. So essentially what they're trying to say here is that if we pay today, we won't need to pay for it in the future, which, if I'm honest, a lot of people will not be happy about that. And I don't blame them, because right now we are in a cost of living crisis. So yeah, it's easy to say, yeah, if we do all this now, we'll be better off later on. The problem is that many people just do not have the patience. People are too impatient these days. That's a big problem, unfortunately, with people these days. Yep, everyone's saying hello to everyone. Hope you guys are all doing well. Yep, apologies. Don't know where Pagan is, guys. So I do apologize. All I can do is just keep an eye out on my phone and see if he pops up there. The good news is for StreamYard is I can see the chat here on the side, so I don't need to use my phone for live chat. So if you guys are talking, I can actually see you guys as well. Rather pay £10 per towards nuclear than a Tory friend's yacht. Yeah, I would too, Richard. Yeah, if it's yeah, I mean, obviously, if it's going for a better cause, obviously, than going towards dodgy COVID contracts and all that malarkey. Yeah, I agree. But I understand the people's skepticism about nuclear energy as well. Let me make sure I switch to the next one. I didn't close the article. I didn't. No, I didn't. Okay. The next one I got for you guys is can't technically use that one, can I? Yeah, I could use that one. Okay. I'm going to go to this one instead. This one here is from MSN. It's actually an Evening Standard one here. All of these are, I just want to stress that pretty much the majority of the articles we're covering are ones that One Angry Pagan has provided, that he sent to me on the Discord. So apologize that he's not here. So I am flying solo, and I am trying my best on this, so please bear with me with this. Ben Richard and Witchy Goth, good to see you both. Hope you are doing well. So this, according to this on the Evening Standard, the UK harvest is on course for a near record low after droughts hit crops, analysis has found. I think obviously this week, as for those who've been watching the Good Morning Show, we know that there's been a lot of rain forecast this week, and the next, and I think there's some going to be coming next week as well. Obviously, a couple of weeks beforehand, we haven't had rain for a while. We had some really, really hot weather. We were hitting 30, 32, 33 degrees. There was that one day where it was really, really hot. I don't. Some people have claimed that it's been the hottest summer. I'm maybe it's just me, but I didn't feel that I haven't felt that. Maybe some people did. I don't think it was as hot. But in terms of our harvest, this is becoming a bigger and bigger problem, and this is where we need to use more technology. When I see analysis, things like this, we need to use more technology and less reliant on the sun and the temperatures around us, and we need to have an environment and temperatures suitable to grow the crops that we need. Because obviously the days of using massive fields to grow crops is becoming less and less reliant, and more by building them literally in labs now, and giant greenhouses is where mainly where food is the future, and it's the use of technology in doing so as well. So we need to start moving towards that, unfortunately. It's going to be harder and harder, and we are going to lose British farmers over the next several years, whether they like it or not, even with the inheritance tax, because of the ever-changing in our environment. So let's read a bit into this. So the UK is on course for one of its worst harvests on record after dry conditions and droughts hit stable crops, according to an analysis. Yields estimate from the Agriculture and Horticulture Development Board, the AHDB, shows that the UK could see its fifth worst harvest since detailed records began in 1984, according to the Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit, the ECIU, which analyses the data. So farmers are harvesting fields this year after the UK experienced an extremely dry spring, which hindered the development of arable crops such as wheat, oats, and barley, a bit with significant regional variations depending on the soil type and rainfall. The anticipated poor output marks a second difficult year for farmers following the third worst UK harvest on record in 2024. Third, guys. That's really, really bad. Last year, extreme rainfall made worse by climate change also hit farmers' ability to establish and manage their crops. So Tom Lancaster, the ECIU Land, Food and Farming Analysis said, British farmers are once again having to contend with another terrible harvest after another year of extreme record-breaking weather. This is what farming in a changing climate looks like, with huge implementations to our farmers' food production and UK food security. Farmers need more and better support to adapt to these extremes. There is now a real urgency to ensure that support to invest in healthier soils and other green farming measures can boost its reliance and is once again made available. The only real insurance against these climate impacts, wrecking the future harvest, is to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions to net zero. This should now be viewed as a priority for our long-term food security. A fifth worst harvest on the record in 2025 would mean that 3 of the 5 worst harvests since record began 2020, 2024, and 2025 have occurred in this decade. And this is back to back here. This is back to back. This is what their analysis are saying here. Hello, Doc Davis, and anybody else, Scott there, and any other people who are looking in the chat. Sorry if I don't say hello to everyone here. Just a reminder, I'm running solo at the moment. There is a possibility that Pagan may still turn up. So don't rule it out, guys. It is in its State of the UK Climate Report this year. The Met Office said extreme heat and rainfall is becoming the norm in the UK as climate continues to warm. Farmers across the country have been struggling with the conditions this year, including growers of field vegetables such as broccoli and cauliflower, and livestock farmers trying to feed their cattle and sheep. And the Bank of England recently warned that extreme weather globally is a factor in the current levels of increasing food price inflation, and that ongoing extreme weather may prevent it coming down next year as it otherwise expected. Register now for one of the standard newsletters. We're not interested in applying for the standard newsletter, if I'm honest. I don't blame anyone for saying the same thing. But yeah, another record droughts. And once again, harvests are worst off for our farmers. At a time where they're stretched, we're all in a cost of living crisis. And for farmers not getting as much food as they would like, which means that they get less money, which means that they may have to sell off land. As a result, they may have to make difficult decisions because they're not making as much money as they used to. And what is the government doing to subsidize these environmental changes that are happening right now? That's a good question, because obviously if we want to continue to reliance on British farmers, we have to make sure that they are given everything that they need to be able to continue to thrive even in these ever-changing climates, because it is an ever-changing climate now. I'm going to be drinking lots of water tonight, guys, so bear with me. Let me just see what you guys are saying. Yeah, a couple of the wheat fields near me were ruined and black just cut into the hay, said Witchy Goth. It's not good. Yeah, it's not good at all, guys. Hello, Peter. Good to see you there. Land ownership. Yeah, land ownership. let's have a look at this next one here. This one is actually a piece here from Northern Ireland that Pagan sent me. Like I said, apart from the last two stories that are mine, this one is also from him here. So get it open. There we go. I'm not sure how good you can see the text here with using StreamYard. So guys, normally I use OBS, obviously, but I have to use StreamYard if I want to share a screen with other people. So the environment crisis at Lough Neagh has become a political problem. So Lough Neagh's partnership chief, Jerry Darby, has urged action after describing the Loughs as the worst he has ever seen. So I don't know too much about the context, so let's read a bit more into this, guys. I have on this. So an environmental crisis at the UK's largest freshwater lake has become a political problem. It has been claimed. Hold on a second. Am I still here? One second, guys. I just need to confirm I'm definitely. I should have that tab open. Check these. 1 second. I just need to check the tab. I don't know. I always have the live stream tab open from YouTube, and I don't have it open for some silly reason. So you're gonna have to bear with me. You are still here. Okay. Well, obviously it jumps. So give me 1 second. It's just loading up. So you might see a bit of a jump in your screens. 1 second. Excellent connection. Yeah, it appears fine on that side. Okay. Let me just wait for it to finish loading up there. Sorry. Security since the Bronze Age. Grumpy Git says, I'm just down the road from Hill Hunter, who supplies Sainsbury's, etc., with soft fruits. They've done a lot of work on irrigation, but are still struggling. That's not good. Yeah, I saw my screen jump off again. So it looks like I'm definitely having signal problems here, which is not ideal, guys. I'm gonna get rid of that article because that's probably not worth talking about, that one. So we'll just stick with if we've got 3 more, if we can go through, get to them at 9 o'clock. Right, let me carry on, guys. So blue-green algae returned to the Lough Neagh in the centre of Northern Ireland for the 3rd summer in a row this week, with some describing the current situation as the worst they have yet seen. So this summer is the condition of the Lough caused by eel fishing season to be cut short. So the blue-green algae has also spread to other waterways, causing 2 North Coast beaches to close for bathing at the weekend. Last week, agriculture Environment and Rural Minister Andrew Murr said he was determined to turn the situation around, adding a number of key. I see my screen keeps turning off and on. I don't know if it might be it might be because it's from the Independent and their cookies possibly that are causing disruption. Lough Neagh's partnership chief Jerry Darby expressed his frustration with the lack of action, telling PA News Agency that it is not an environmental problem but a political one. While Stormont Assembly has agreed a Lough Neagh's action plan, Mr. Darby stressed the importance of delivering the Nutrients Action Programme, the NAP, to target nutrient pollution, particularly, I can't say that word, this is where I need a pagan in, phosphorus and alumina. And I probably mispronounced those words wrong. The farming community was critical of the NAP during a public consultation which closed in July. A stakeholder group is to review the consultation responses and contribute additional proposals ahead of a second constitution later this year. Mr. Darby says the situation on Lough is the worst that I've seen. He attributed the issue to nutrients growing into the Lough from the farming sector, sewage treatment sector, septic tanks, and the general industry. UK farmers have been planting 20% less crops since Brexit. No seasonal workers to pick the crops. Yep, that is also true. Thanks for that, David. Yep, that is correct. Obviously, Brexit has obviously been playing a part in this as well. Must not forget the B word there as well. Not being able to have the crops, not being able to have the workers to be able to work the farms has been problematic as well. So yes, that is a factor into it too. It's funny how they never seem to mention Brexit. Yeah, some of these outlets. However, he said recent warm weather and sunny spells may have exacerbated the situation. Still no response. Spread of the evasive. It is possible that something serious may have happened, which is why Pagan hasn't responded. So hopefully it's nothing serious, guys. Something serious may have happened. It is possible. So hopefully he's okay, and nobody. Hopefully he's okay, and everyone, his friends and family are okay. Hopefully it's nothing serious, guys. You know, because the last thing I want is to hear from Pagan later that something terrible has happened. You know, to him or one of his relatives or something like that. You know. Spread of the invasive zebra mussel species is also understood to have played a role in the blooms, as they have made the water cleaner, allowing more sunlight to penetrate, stimulating more algal photosynthesis. While climate change is thought to be having an effect, with the bottom of the Lough having increased in its temperature by a degree in the last 20 years. Quote, it's hard to predict, but the reality is there's certainly no policy implementation at this moment in time, and that has changed the number of nutrients. The amount of nutrients going into the Lough, so the reality is nothing has really changed, as Darby has said. In one sense, it's not an environmental problem, it's a political problem. Unless the majority of parties come together to agree with the Minister Muir and the farming sector, it will never be solved. The farming sector is not the only sector supplying the nutrients, but they are the biggest and the majority, so that's where they need to start. The Minister is more than open, in my view, to listen to any and meet somewhere in the middle. Politics is also about meeting in the middle and compromises. There are no solutions, only trade-offs of different priorities, and without a discussion, you're not able to work out what those trade-offs will be. Well, hopefully they will eventually come to get around the table on this issue. If it's not directly a climate political issue, and it's more a climate issue, and it's more of a political one, then this is obviously something that they need to get their knuckles around the table and come up with a solution for it, rather than kind of just sitting on it. Need to sort it out. We need to protect our environment more than anything, and I think that's really, I'm sure you all agree with me that that's really, really important there. What I'll do after the live stream, guys, is I'm going to put all the articles that I will cover for you guys. I'll put links for them in the description, because I wasn't planning to put them on until I spoke to Pagan, but obviously he's not here at the moment. Let's hope it's nothing serious indeed. Yeah, let's hope it's not something too serious indeed as well. So this next one I've got for you guys is, excuse me, it's quite a long one. It's got lots of different graphs. So cross fingers, Pagan turns up in this one, because this is quite an interesting one indeed. Let me see if I can get this one up. Bloop. So this one he sent me is from Carbon Brief. This is clean on Carbit. This was a few days ago. Guest post: is climate change making UK droughts worse? Is what it's saying. So this year's 2025 has seen exponentially dry conditions in many parts of the UK. So at the time of writing, a large area of England is officially in drought, and hosepipe bans are enforced in more than 8 million households. This follows severe drought episodes in the summers of 2022 and 2018, which raises the question of whether these events are part of a pattern towards a drier future. However, the intervening periods between these droughts events have been associated with major floods. There is good reason to assume that this hydrological volatility could be linked to climate change. Writing for Carbon Brief in 2020, we explored how climate change might be impacting UK river flooding. Here we revisit this theme, but ask whether global warming is driving a long-term trend towards increasing drought severity in the UK. So to do so, we drew from the findings of a 2023 Environmental Agency report, a chapter of which we authorised and has now been accepted for publication in a peer-reviewed journal. So the key findings include future projections indicating hydrological droughts that will become more severe in the UK, especially over the months of April to September due to hotter, drier summers. However, observations for the past 50 years and longer where records allow do not provide evidence of worsening droughts. This apparent conflict is largely because natural climate variability can obscure underlying trends driven by climate change. And an increasing variable climate in the UK means planners still need to prepare for more severe droughts as well as more floods. So droughts are complex events that vary in duration, time of year, location, and severity. They are often categorized into different types. For example, a meteorological drought is defined by a lack of rainfall, whereas agricultural drought is a period where there is not enough water for crops to grow. Here we are focusing on hydrological drought, and which is when a lack of rainfall results in less water in streams, lakes, rivers, and reservoirs. This is something I definitely have noticed myself, even where I live, in the past couple of years, actually. My best example of this is when I walk in my big park, and I tend to, there's a part there where there's a bit of a stream, a tiny little stream. Normally it's quite big. It's quite a big stream during the winters and autumns because of the amount of rain. But during the summer, it's completely dried up. During the summer, it's normally completely dried up. But in the last couple of years, that during the winter and winter and autumn, while the stream is there, it's less water than it used to be. So in actual fact, it's easy for me to jump over it on the footpath, on my pathway to get past it. So it's not as deep, as deep as it used to be year on year. So I'm definitely noticing that in my area with some of these streams, lakes, and rivers, because I do actually, when I walk past them, to see, like, do they have plenty of? Are they still getting plenty of water? I don't know how many of you guys look at that, but I do find it quite interesting if you see, because it does there. Yeah, I'll provide links at the end of the live stream, Jal. In particular, we look at deficits in river route. It is though dwindling rivers flows that drought that have some of the greatest impact on society and the environment. So over March, July of this year, flows in many UK rivers were at their lowest level on record. Hosepipe bans have been introduced by water companies, while the Environment Agency has imposed restrictions on extracting water from rivers and warned of widespread environmental impacts such as fish die-offs and algae blooms in rivers, streams, and lakes. So they have a map below that shows a significant number of rivers in the UK this spring seeing exceptionally low flows, marked by dark red circles, and noticeably low flows marked by an orange circle compared to 1991 to 2020 on average. This includes many rivers in northern parts of Great Britain, which is typically wetter in the southeast. It says the graphs on the right, meanwhile, show how the flows into the River Derwent and the River Wye, Black Line, in 2025 have been at equivalent levels or lower than in any other major past droughts, red, green, and orange lines brackets. This includes record-breaking droughts of 1976 orange lines, often used as a benchmark here. So I know it's a bit difficult, guys, to see some of the graphs there, but I don't know how well you can see them from your perspectives. This is why if I had OBS, I could zoom in on this, but I can't. But you can see the UK map there, and you can see kind of where the flow of rivers and lakes are. Sorry, my apologies. And you can see some of the dark red circles there on the map, and you can see where they are struggling the most there. Both quite a large chunk, obviously, in England. There are parts in Scotland that have got it as well. There are other parts where they're not suffering as bad. Yeah, London seems to be okay, but you can see up in the north there, a lot of the rivers there are really struggling there. So I kind of need to zoom in to see more of the data here, but it's interesting to say the least. I think if Pagan was here, probably be able to break it down a lot better for us. So just this bit of information here on the left is the average river flows for March, July 2025, where the lower numbers and darker clouds represent a lower flow. On the right is 2025 river flows, black line for Yorkshire, Delaware on the top, and Hertfordshire's white on the bottom. Compared to those in 1976, this is the orange line, 2018 green line, and 2022 red line. And this is from the National Hydrological Monitoring Program there. So in terms of, yeah, you can see the graphs there, obviously a little bit, yeah, orange line is very different to the other ones there. REP is a nice guy. I don't always agree with him and everything, but he is a nice guy. Yeah, Well, he is called One Angry Pagan, so he's not always going to be. He's not one happy pagan. Interesting there. So, how is climate going to affect droughts in the UK? So, globally, climate change causes an intensification on the hydrological cycle. So, this means that both wet and dry extremes, floods and droughts, are likely to become more frequent and severe. One way of understanding the impact on climate change and hydrological drought is to use rainfall and temperature projections from climate models to drive hydrological models that stimulate how the flow of water through river catchment could change in the future. There are numerous studies that provides such projections of UK droughts. A summary of these can be found in the chapter module in the 2023 Environmental Impact Report, which is linked at the bottom at the top. Among these studies, a river flow models generally show that in the future, the UK should expect lower summer river flows, increasing drought severity and decreasing minimum flows. And in other words, the lowest flows each year will get lower. So are we going to get to a point where basically we're going to lose rivers altogether? Is that essentially what they are implying here? Be crap if we all agreed on everything here, but at least we're on the right side, says Scott. Yeah, it's important that we don't always have everyone on the right side there. The graph below shows projections of changing flows, changing low flows for a selection of UK rivers from the 1980s to the 2080 over consecutive 30-year moving average. So 1983 to 2012 to 1984 to 2013 and so on, through to 2015-79 is what their projections. Where is it? Oh, God. So these projections are based on enhanced future flows in groundwaters, EFLAG dataset, which provides stimulant river flows for 200 cache around the UK using 4 river flow modules. And these are driven by the regional projections from the Met Office UK Climate Projections 2018. UKCP 18, a 12-member climate module, assembles which uses very high emissions. More on these, you can read the carbon brief in depth there. There's a link for that. The multiple lines on each plot, which indicate different projections are for low flows, shows the uncertainty arising from different climate models runs and river flows models used. The chart reveals that across all rivers and different future trajectories, the trend points in the same direction towards diminishing minimum flows. This suggests a drier future for the UK, most notably in the summer here. So they have some of different south tides. There are lots of different flows here. Is what they are forecasting here. So you can see the forecast of 2020 to 2028, and they're forecasting obviously all of them to be much lower. There is what they are projecting, pretty much every single river from what they have there. It doesn't look good, guys. So given these projections, we would expect to see a similar trend of decreasing minimum flows emerging in observational data over the last few decades. However, our research concludes that there is little compelling evidence for any evidence of a widespread worsening of UK droughts over the last half century yet. So our map below shows how river flows have changed since 1965 across the UK to very low Q95, medium low Q70, and medium Q50 flows. Much of the north and west of the UK, the lower flows for each year have in fact increased since 1965. That's blue triangles. In the south and east of the country, there are decreases investing red triangles, but it is a mixed picture. Overall, the number of statistically significant trends is modest. So what they're saying here. So the blue triangles are indicating increases in flows, and the red triangles are decreases in flows, apparently. So this is observed trends in 3 different indicators of low flow rivers, 1965 to 2022. Q value represents different percentages, where Q95 is a river flow that exceeds 95% of the time each year, i.e. very low flows. Q70 is for the medium low flows, and Q50 is for the medium river flows. Red triangles show decreases, low flows getting lower, and blue triangles represent increases, with the signs of the triangles representing the magnitude of change. White shading on the triangles shows changes that are statistically significant, apparently. So if you look at that, it seems according to most of these, then the main significance seems to be around middle Scotland there, Glasgow and Edinburgh areas from the looks of it. Increases in flows there is what they're indicating. Large parts of in and around London, north of London, south of London, south of England there. Southwest seems to be in some parts there as well, according to this. But while these river flows records spans more than 50 years, It's still relatively short time frame. As a result, as we explore much more longer records, this includes reconstructed river flows, which stretch back to 1980s. I'm going to do at least one more article after this, guys, even if it goes over the time. I want to cover at least one of my stories. Here too, we find there is no consistent trend towards worsening droughts over these long periods. I was going to go an hour, but I might end up going over it just because I want to cover at least one of my articles. In fact, our research shows trends in the last 50 years are often unprecedented of longer-term changes. Some of the apparent decreasing trend from the maps above disappear when a longer view is taken. Excuse me. There is a clear contradiction between future projections and past trends. We do not see much evidence of a dry future in that climate model project. However, this apparent contradiction is unsurprising once uncertainty inherited in both future projections and historical observations are considered. Future projections are higher uncertainty span a wide range of possibilities, as shown by the multiple lines in the E-flag graphs above. Caution is needed in interpreting trends in observations too. While 50 years seems a reasonably long period, trend can be influenced by various risks associated with national atmospheric and oceanic circulation patterns. The trends towards increasing river flows in the north and west are consistent with changes in the North Atlantic oscillation. Hope I'm saying that right. Probably not. NAO, the atmospheric pressure system that influences the UK's weather on year-to-year and decade-to-decade timescales. There's a growing list of drivers of drought variability, including the El Niño Southern Ocean and the ENSO. We know that there's been significant changes about El Niño because we've actually talked about it here on the show before. So it's not like we're fully aware that there are being changes to that. There is a possibility that we could end up, the UK specifically, could end up in an ice age, that we could have really severe colder temperatures due to the changes in the winter, due to the changes in the currents. There is a possibility that could happen in the future. And the role of influx of fresh water into the North Atlantic due to the melting of the Greenland ice sheets. In a recent paper, we highlight that long-term trends in the low flow rivers in many UK catchments may not be detectable for decades due to being observed by natural climate variability. So this shown by the plot below, which illustrates how projected trends of very low rivers flow over the 21st century, red line contrasts with the estimated range of historically river flows, that's variables, that's the dash lines. The grey shading shows range of different climate models. It shows for some catchments, for example, the Lambion River in southeast England, significant new trends do not emerge until the 2050s. Here. So some are not as much changing as others here, obviously. So it looks as though in some of these low flows there, looks like Tel Aviv and Bristol are much higher, and they said Lambeth there is much less there. But I also think this is also down to location as well. I also think the location is significant in this as well, because sometimes where it is, it depends on like, how can I put this? It depends where it is located wise, like how wide the gap is. I think these factors play into certain rivers as well. And of course the depths of the river, obviously, I think is as well about how deep the waters are too. All these factors, I think these are factors as well in some of the regions as well, not just obviously the climate and our ever-changing planet as well. So part of the mismatch between historical observations and climate projections for the UK summer is due to a run of wet summers from the late 2000s onwards. This climate variability has masked an underlying trend that could eventually emerge and bring more worrisome consistencies with the projections of climate models. So that is masking. This masking has often entailed living with an excess of water in the form of widespread damage and flooding, only highlights the challenges water managers face. So further research is required into how different types of hydrological droughts will evolve. We are confident we will see more droughts in April, December, typically associated with heat waves as in 2025, 2022, and 2018. This is because warmest temperatures, which unlike rainfall trends are certain, will exacerbate droughts. This increased likelihood of hot, dry summers also mean rapid onset flash droughts will have an impact on soil moisture as well as river flows. As such, the droughts of recent years should be interpreted as a warning that hotter temperatures will worsen drought impacts. However, I'm much less confident that we'll see a more long and multi-annual droughts driven by dry winters that fail to replenish reservoirs and aquifers as those seen in the 1988 to 1993, 2005 to 2006, then 2010 and 2012. This is because climate models generally predict wetter winters for the UK. These multi-annual droughts have historically posed some of the greatest challenges to water management. Nevertheless, climate variables mean that even if winters getting wetter, there will always be runs of dry years. This is a cause for concern, as the greatest problem occurs when wet winters combined with dry summers. It was the dry winter of 1975 to 1976, which made the 1976 drought so severe. Our findings is that it's difficult to confirm wherever droughts are overall becoming more severe, offer little comfort to water managers preparing for the future. Our research offers a number of recommendations for water planners to try and navigate this complexity. This includes using large climate model assembles to test the resilience of water supply systems to different types of droughts. Although model projections are uncertain, they provide a way to assess the UK's vulnerability to a range of future outcomes. Furthermore, the hydrological volatility of recent past indicates the importance of preparing for both a drier and wetter future in the UK. And the UK is known for its variable weather, but it will always have a future that is even more variable and extreme. That's very fascinating indeed. Yeah. It is fascinating, while at the same time also scary, because like this one, for example, here, there's like, even though that we are seeing less water in some rivers, this could there's also the possibility that there's opening up of new river patterns as well that are taking place as well with this, guys, in doing so. So while there are rivers obviously that are seemingly fading out, there are some that are fading in here. One Angry Pagan, how are you, my friend? Are you okay?
I have to completely apologise. I was being...
One second, sorry, say that again. Sorry, I didn't have my headphones on. Apologies.
I have to completely apologise, guys. I was not very well and completely missed the time.
Okay, that's fine.
So I have to completely apologise to Regan and all you badgers out there. I apologise. What if I missed?
It happens. We were just looking at this one. I mean, I've just read the whole thing. This one that you sent me about the carbon brief, about the climate change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to add to it? Really, I've read the whole thing already to the chat. But,
yeah. I've looked through earlier when I put it up. I mean, with the droughts are likely to become more common as time goes on. We've got I mean, this isn't helped by poor agricultural practices.
Yeah,
and the fact that we built so much on floodplains as well means that like the water there's not so much groundwater being held, and so with housing practices and agricultural practices, this is only just going to become worse and more often, with climate change continuing to make things even more unpredictable.
Yeah, I did say with regards to, I was saying earlier to the chat when we were talking about like the UK harvest on course for its worst harvest crop. I said this is where we need to use more technology and adapt the way we are growing crops here, because we can't just keep relying on the soil in the ground. There are technologies that we can use to keep it going, but it's problematic. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you perfectly. Can I be heard all right?
Yeah. You just said, are you trying to contact me on?
Yeah, sorry. I didn't know whether or not you'd started the program. So
No. We've already started. We already started. So I
come back out the bathroom, absolutely panicking. So
it happens. Like listen, like I was saying to the chat earlier, as long as you're okay friends and family are okay and all that kind of stuff. That's that's the main thing. Like that was the thing that we were worried about. So.
I think. I mean, it's not been exactly sunny here. It's been raining, but I think it's just been muggy is the issue, and the heat got to me.
To be fair, we've had rain non-stop here for quite a while as well. Here, but we've got two more stories to go through here. I did send you the links of them anyway, but we'll go through these two together here. At least, guys. So we will go at least up till we'll go through these two at least for you guys here. So this next one I got from The Guardian, and it's more of a not just a global, not just UK but global issue here, guys. And that is deforestation has killed 500,000 people in the past 20 years, according to a study has found. So localized rise in temperatures is caused by land clearances caused 28,330 heat-related deaths a year. Researchers are fine. Are you surprised by this at all? Because I'm not surprised by the increase that the deforestation has actually been linked here to the deaths of people as well.
No, I'm not surprised. I mean, especially with, and this is more talking about areas that are like Brazil and whatnot. But you can always take this perspective and to just where we live. Like if I compare, say, where I live here in Torbay in South Devon to somewhere like Plymouth or London, where there are less trees and loads more concrete and it's all exposed. You find yourself having more heat problems, and especially the elderly and young people will find it a lot harder to deal with.
Yeah.
And I see it when people come down here for like a day out or a holiday, and they find it a lot easier to be outside because it's so much greener here. There's so much more shade here, and not only that, but down at ground level, there's because there's a lot more shade. A lot less of the heat is being soaked up by the concrete, and then just reflecting it back at us. I mean, with more with Brazil, areas like Brazil and areas where there's massive deforestation going on, a lot of the water is soaked up by forests and whatnot. So you're taking away forest water, even just that's in the air, by taking away forests. A lot of people don't realize that one.
I was just going to say that there are obviously, I know that, I'm sure Dave McGee, correct me if I'm wrong, there are forests, I'm sure there are trees being quite significant amounts of organisations in Scotland, for example, trying to grow trees and grow new forests, as well as in England. I know that there was one story in Africa I covered on my channel. I can't remember. I think it was Ethiopia that they were planting like a billion trees or something. A story like that. I don't know how realistic it is, but they pretty much got like a whole town or whatever to plant like 1 million trees or something a day or something, which was quite a massive. I would have to say, like really quite extraordinary when you think about how much forest is being cut away in the Amazon. It really is a case of like we need humans other places to grow more trees and plant more trees when there's some being taken away for the Amazon rainforest. The problem is the Amazon rainforest is so big and so fast, like you can't really recover that space. I don't know where you would be able to replicate something like that. I mean, you just can't, because it's just so big on the planet. And obviously, as you said, it's not just the Amazon. Obviously, there are other places doing so. But I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure, I think Canada does a lot of wood cutting as well. But they also do, they do a lot of forest cutting, but they also do a lot of replanting after. So it's not like they're cutting it down and leaving it cut down. They're planting them back up for the future again.
The
there.
key,
So,
though, when replanting is to make sure you don't create monocultural forests, where you're only planting one species, like pine and one species of pine. You're only planting one species of beech or something. Like that also is something that has caused problems. You just here in this country where you go past acres of forest, but it doesn't look any nicer because it's just one type of tree, and they're not even they're spaced out all nice and evenly, and it's like, well, this isn't natural. This isn't nature.
It's not natural. It's just to look nice.
Yeah. So I'm like, if we're going to do the replanting, please, can we take it seriously?
Yeah. So let's read a bit.
That's my main thing with the replanting.
Yeah. Peter says, I was planting trees 35 years ago in Scotland. Peter, I appreciate you planting trees. Thank you so much for your contributions. Much appreciated.
Love that.
Spent a lot of time cutting down plantations and planting mixed natives there as well. Thank you for that.
That's exactly what needs to happen.
So deforestation has killed more than 500,000 people in the tropics over the past 2 decades as a result of heat-related illness, a study has found. So land clearance is raising the temperature in the rainforest of the Amazon, Congo, and the Southeast Asia because of its reduced shade, diminished rainfalls, and increasing the risk of fire, the authors of the paper has found. So deforestation is responsible for more than a third of the warming experienced by people living in the affected regions, which is on top of the effect of global climate disruption. So about 345 million people across the tropics suffer from this localized deforestation caused warming between 2001 and 2020. For 2.6 million of them, the additional heating added 3 degrees to their heat exposure. That's 3. I think, like what was the hottest temperature in India? Did they break a new record this year in the summer? Like, they were already above 40, wasn't they?
I know Norway.
I think the highest. I know that I think it was last year or year before, India had temperatures as high as 40, 47, which was I don't know if the 50
in America, Death Valley in America sees regular these kind of temperatures as well.
Yeah, they were really. Yeah, they're getting much worse in America.
Some of my fellows in the paleontology field are finding it a lot harder to go out into areas like Death Valley or even the Gobi Desert in Mongolia, because the average heat on days in summers like this is just too much even for them.
Yeah,
and these are people that are used to going out into deserts and staring at rocks and digging up rocks all fucking day.
Yeah, they've been used to the heat, but this is extreme heat. So it can be and it's also on the damage it can do to the skin as well when it reaches certain temperatures. In many cases, this was deadly. The researchers estimated that the warming due to deforestation accounted for 28,330 annual deaths over that 20-year period. More than half were in the Southeast Asia, owing to the larger populations in area with heat vulnerability. About a third were in tropical Africa and the remainder in Central and South America. The study was published on Wednesday in the journal National Climate Change. Have you got a smoke alarm going off?
Yeah, my sister and my mum seem to be having it. Oh.
Do you want to just mute for a second?
No, they've done it.
Okay.
I don't know what
researchers in Brazil, Gaza, and the UK compared non-accident mortality rates and temperatures in areas affected by tropical land clearance. Previous studies have shown how cutting and burning trees cause long-term localized warming, but the new paper is the first to calculate the ensuing death toll. Professor Dominic I can't say his surname. You say the surname of the University of Leeds said the message was that deforestation.
Professor Dominic Spratlin.
Thank you. I can't say it here. That said that the message was that deforestation kills. He expects many people would be shocked by the findings because of the local dangers of deforestation were often lost in the global climate debate because of the market-focused expansion of agriculture frontiers. Yeah, because people just see it as a case. Some people just see it as a case of, oh, it's only like moving out tribes, or growing agriculture, growing more farmland, or less animals, sort of thing. Oh, it's not affecting us humans, but they don't realize it's actually, it is actually going to affect humans. So just some people don't realize that. Mm-hmm. Or as in the rich and powerful, they honestly don't care.
Poor agricultural practices are just making it worse. And you tell these farmers that they need to modernize and do their jobs differently, and they'll argue with you till the cow comes home. It's ridiculous. They won't listen.
As an example, he pointed to Brazil's region of Mato Grosso, where there has been massive deforestation to open up land for vast soya beans plantations. Farmers from this area are now pushing for an end to the soy motorellium in the Amazon so that they can clear more territory. So basically, they want more farmland, basically, is what they're saying there. It said leaving the canopy intact would save lives and boost farm production. If Mato Grosso can keep its forest standing, people there will experience less heat stress, he said. This isn't just the West urging forest protection for the sake of the global climate. The forest directly benefits local communities. They regulate temperature, bring rainfall, and support the agriculture they depend on. These foresters aren't idle. They're working really hard and doing something really important for us. Yeah, it is just
the entire ecosystems that these rainforests hold is so important.
But they're holding so much, as you said, they hold water. It's not just about the air we breathe, but the water that they hold as well. Yeah. So you think about all the trees that we have on the planet, and you think about how much water that they absorb, as well as plants and whatnot. Never mind the water that's in the Arctic and the Antarctic and in the ocean. Like that's quite a lot of water, guys.
I mean, you'll notice if you go into a forest in the middle of summer, that it seems like it's moist in the air. And that's literally the case. There is more water even in the air, but it does also feel a lot cooler. But, this is even worse in countries where overpopulation in cities is that much more common. You were saying about South and East Asia. The cities there are insane. We say how UK and American cities get really packed and overpopulated. We've got nothing.
Oh yeah, it's nothing compared to the likes of Singapore and China and whatnot. Oh, I think Beijing is quite like that as well. Exactly. Like they've literally people are putting the homes that they are in. Like we complain about some of the homes we're in, like the boxes that they are in Beijing is just like they are literally like in a tiny box, like their home with they don't have as much space as we do.
You try putting across to these people like, well, what if we do this? If we start to do land management properly and build where not build where you're not supposed to, we can make more housing instead of overpopulating the cities. But people refuse to. But people are like, no, it's going to cost too much. No, it's too much environmental regulations. No, we're just going to do it anyway because we've always done. This is how we've always done it. Well, look at the mess we're leading to because we've always done the way we're doing it.
Yeah,
I do get annoyed with people where they're like, well, why should I care about the animals? Look, because we live in this world too.
Yeah. Doc Davis says soya for the cow feeds there. Yeah, so the obviously so that they can have produce more meat and whatnot for the animals in America, South America as well. I can't remember the video, but there was a documentary ages ago where they show vast amounts of fields with animals in them, and they obviously producing, and instead of actually, and lots of fields of food to feed these animals, whereas they could just be using all that food to feed humans instead of just feeding the animals, just so that they can kill the animals, fatten them up and kill them, and then sell them, and then we eat the meat. Like, it's just like the food is literally there, you know.
It doesn't help that a lot of the feed crops like alfalfa, and I think soy is also used as a feed for animals, is also really water intensive. Like, America is drying out the Colorado River by over planting alfalfa, which isn't even an American plant. They got that from the Middle East.
That is literally our last story, the Colorado River. Believe it or not. So believe it or not. So the fact that you actually mentioned that is yeah, the Colorado, yeah, it's speaking of the river itself, guys. This is one of the latest ones from the Associated Press. The Colorado River is in trouble, and some groups want the government to step up. They want the Trump administration to do something. That's a big ask.
Lee Zeldin, the fucking ghoul that he isn't going to do shit.
So this image is from 2023 there.
That is miserable.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it used to be a lot bigger than that. Maybe it's just me.
You can see that it should be the water table should be a lot higher. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So earlier this year, several environmental groups sent a petition to the federal government with a seamlessly simple message: ensure that water from the imperative Colorado River is not wasted and only being delivered for reasonable and beneficial usage. The organizations urged the Bureau of Reclamation to use its authority to curb water waste in the lower bastion states, California, Arizona, and Nevada. They argue it was necessary to help address the river's water shortages. The concept of reasonable and beneficial use is not new, but it is being discussed at a crucial moment. Chronic overuse, drought, and rising temperatures linked to climate change have shrunk water flows. States' reliance on the rivers are approaching a 2026 deadline to decide on the new rules for sharing its supplies, and they have until mid-November to reach a preliminary agreement or risk federal intervention.
It's gonna the Colorado River is vitally important for it's even strategically important to the US as a defense measure, and yet. They're like, no, well, it's always going to be here. We can just keep going with it. And it's not. I mean, look at Arizona. Phoenix in Arizona shouldn't even exist. The only way they can make that city exist is by pumping loads of water from the river and from the local water table. But
what's going to happen when it runs out?
America likes to make it suburbs, doesn't it? Yeah. And then join its cities up via the suburbs, and that's also not helping with this. But the farming, like I said, a lot of the alfalfa farming, which is animal feed, is really, really water intensive, and because Trump is all about deregulation, a lot of the farmers are trying to use as much as they can, and there's no wonder that farmers are having arguments, and not just with each other, but with the authorities.
Yeah,
because
they're saying, I need more water. I need more water I need more water, and it's like, and yeah, it's
Americans if this isn't sorted, the Americans that live in mid-America around the Colorado River, they will have to move. They will not have an option.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with those relying on the Rio Grande as well. Like, if they don't reverse what they're doing, they will have to move from where they are.
The petitioning groups argue that reducing water waste could help ensure the river has a sustainable future. but others worry the cuts could bring hardship to farmers and consumers. This picture here, this is January. I mean, this boat sums it up, doesn't it? Quite a bit, doesn't it?
You see images like that with the ex-estuary when the tide's particularly low, but like with the river, you shouldn't be seeing that.
No. Yeah.
Especially with such a large river that the Colorado River is.
Mm-hmm. The river supports 14 million people across 7 US states, 2 states in Mexico, and Native American tribes. We don't have a management future for the Colorado River right now, and it's getting pretty scary, said Mark Gold, a Judic professor at the University of California, Los Angeles, and former director of water scarcity solutions with the Water Resource Defense Council. One of the environmental groups that filed the petition, we should be dealing with this as a water scarcity emergency. And one of the things that you should really do in an emergency is let's deal with water waste first. The Bureau has not responded to the petition. In a statement to the Associated Press, the agency said it continues to operate with the agreement and rules in place and has other strategies to reduce the risk of reaching critical elevations at the river's reservoirs, Lake Powell and Mead. Okay, sure.
They're obviously not doing it. Like that's so blasé a response. They don't care.
A Bureau code says that delivering of Colorado River water to each contractor will not exceed those reasonably required for beneficial use. But Carla Housewich, director of the UCLA Frank G. Wells Environmental Law Clinic, wasn't sure what that meant or how it's applied. So she and other students sought to find out with government records. Quote, at best, as we could tell, it's never defined the phrase, as it does not use the phrase in any meaningful way as it's making water delivery decisions. Who is representing the groups? They believe the Bureau needs a reform process to determine whether the states are avoiding wasteful and unreasonable use. In the petition, the groups urged the Bureau to address those issues and performance periodic reviews of water use. Yeah, one of the things, reducing the water waste should be the first priority. Like, because that in itself will obviously it will slow down the decrease in the water at least.
Look at the amount of swimming pools that Americans. I know that there are places here in the UK that have many different homes have swimming pools, but the majority do not. And yet, not just on TV but on films, but when I watch, when I've looked at maps of, street view maps and shit of the US, they have swimming pools in places where it's like you need to watch what you're doing with your water. I want a swimming pool in my backyard. All right then.
Yeah.
Despite the fact you live 15 minutes away from the fucking beach.
Yeah, well, they want their giant skyscraper to have a giant swimming pool on the top of it, or one of those like there's that famous dual skyscraper. I don't know where it is. I think it's in America or Asia, where basically they literally the two tall buildings connect to each other with a swimming pool at the top of it or something. It's just like, yeah.
I mean, this is to me a lot of this is about necessity versus luxury, and quite often as I said, a lot of water is being drained away because of alfalfa farming, but there's also a lot that's just draining away because the opulent, the wealthy, want their little parks.
Yep.
Like their golf courses. Fucking revenge Mandarin revenge monkey. I don't think that, California as it is already, California has major water issues, and yet they're still not coming up with.
They're still wasting a lot of water.
Yeah, like I said, they really need to get away from alfalfa farming. That's the big one for me. they agree that, I mean, if this is likely to get well, I can see water wars happening in the US in the next 30 years.
15-minute walk to
And
the beach, 5 minutes by car, says Joe.
It's 3 decades, but that's really not long in in the scale of things.
Yeah. Benjamin says, I get your point, but you only fill a pool once and top it up a little. I'm pretty sure they have. I'm pretty sure at some point you have to empty out the water because it gets really dirty.
No,
Normally,
they empty them out because otherwise you get algae in your pool.
Yeah. So you can't just have it. You can't just fill it up once and never empty it again. They do. That does have to. Otherwise you won't be able. The water will get, obviously, as Pagan says. Yeah, it's not ideal.
More and more often you see like these rich people are making these really opulent houses that use, like, they've got like 15 bathrooms in the house or some shit.
Yeah.
No.
I like it's fine to have a downstairs toilet and an upstairs bathroom, but you don't need 30 of them.
Yeah, it's just, like, that's what I mean when you talk about waste. These people have used so much water, it's ridiculous. They don't need to.
Yeah. Experts say that defining reasonable beneficial use could be challenging, but some argue it's worth a try. Others worry that allowing an authority to determine what wasteful could have negative impacts. Benjamin says, no, you don't empty them. It will ruin them if you do. You treat algae with alga. If you empty them, you damage the walls. I don't know enough about it, so I can't say that for sure. But as far as I was aware, that you needed to empty the water, but I'm not sure. I don't know enough about that, so I can't comment.
I do know about plenty of American I do know of a number of American families that empty the pool out during towards the end of summer, and then refill it during late spring. So
yeah. So it's potentially a whole can of worms that we need to approach very carefully, says Sarah Potcher, Carl Center for Water Policy Director of Arizona State University, who gets to be the entity that decides what's an appropriate amount of use for any particular water or community. The group see it differently. For example, they think farmers could be incentivized to change wasteful irrigation practices and consider growing crops better suited for certain climates. An example they gave of unreasonable is a year-round flood irrigation of 30 crops in deserts. In cities and industries, wasteful use includes watering all the ornamental turf or using water-intensive cooling systems.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. The ornamental fucking gardens.
In a 2003 case, the Bureau invoked the provision when it ordered water reduction to California's Imperial Irrigation District, the largest river water user, after determining it couldn't beneficially use it all. The district sued, and the dispute eventually settled. California's Imperial Valley relies 100% on the Colorado River. Go on, carry on. What do you guys say?
They talk about they were saying about that how, like, we might not know what a necessary use for water is. How about not golf courses? How about like, less frivolous use of water for rich people? Oh no, America's all about money and rich people, so they don't give a fuck. That's
the desert's
a lot of waste here, and I bet you the rich will go, oh no, it's all the poor people wasting it. Now, don't get me wrong, poor people will waste water.
Yeah, and those damn hose. It's those damn hose pipes. Is what it is.
In terms of actual, daily usage, rich people tend to use a lot more because they use it for all the fucking frivolous shit. Ornamental gardens.
The desert temperatures and mild winters are ideal for growing. 2/3 of winter vegetables are consumed naturally. Andrew Limgrubber, a fourth generation farmer here, has tried to reduce his use with water-saving programs. He grows crops like carrots, onions, and mostly aphilia,
That's alfalfa. That's the stuff I was going on about. Alfalfa.
Alfalfa, which he often floods irregulates because it fills the plant's deep root systems for up to 60 days in the summer, and he doesn't water it at all.
But it's such a crop.
Water cuts because of unreasonable could mean people won't be able to eat a Caesar salad in New York City in January. He said he worries about short-term food shortages and putting farmers out of business. Bill Hasenkamp, manager of Colorado River Resources for the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, said the agency supports an annual process to ensure water is beneficially used, even as definition changes, but he doesn't think it meant to solve the river's existential crisis. He worries invoking this tool could result in litigation. Once things go to court, there's always a wild card that sorts out of anyone's control. Yeah, you don't really want a judge having to make that decision.
So instead of like a national sense of like, oh, if we don't deal with this now, we're gonna get no. It's a case of if we try to bring this up, we might get fined by rich people.
Yeah. Some experts point to California's. God, it's already 9:30. Some experts point to California's constitution as a potential model which contains a provision on reasonable and beneficial use. How that is interpreted is fluid and decided by state water regulators or the courts. Quote, the way it's written is actually very adaptable to the times. So it's actually about what is wasted and unreasonable use in given time, said Fatilia Marcus, a fellow at Stanford University Water in the West program and former chair of the California State Water Resource Control Board. Quote, so things would have seemed to be reasonable 50 years ago. No longer they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Hoover Dam.
It's the same so often because they've been doing stuff for so long. Well, why should we change what we're doing? Because times change.
Yeah, times change, but they just don't. Yeah, some people don't. The problem is people don't like change.
No, these majority of people like this fall for the fallacy of permanence. There is no permanence when it comes to living. Things always change. Often in minute ways, but when it comes to changes like this, even minute changes build up over time, and you get to the point we are at now, and you all of a sudden need to start making more drastic changes because the smaller changes that would have worked in the past are no longer enough.
The State Water Board has invoked its beneficial and reasonable use provision in times of drought. For example, to help support less water in cities, it deemed washing sidewalks or washing cars in driveways as unreasonable. In another case, the water agency argued that it was unreasonable for senior water rights holders to take so much water that fish couldn't swim to cold water refuge.
That's the other one, ecological damage.
Yep. Water regulators have also threatened to apply their unreasonable use authority to get the holders of water rights to better manage their use. It's a tool that gets used as both a threat and a backstop, says Marcus there.
Yeah.
Lem Grubber, the Imperial Valley farmer, said limiting population growth and expansion in arid areas could help. John, I can't say that surname. I'm just going to say John, a farmer and Arizona Farm Bureau president, suggested more desalinization. Can't say it anymore. Salinization projects and
desalinization. See,
yeah,
more desalinization. But the problem with the issue I'm pretty sure with desalinization plants is they are energy intensive. So they'd have to find a way to power the places sufficiently, if I can recall correctly.
And Noah Garrison, a water researcher at the UCLA, found in a recent study he co-authored the states that could do more to recycle wastewater. And still, as decades-long droughts plague parts of the bastion with critical deadlines approaching, some experts say it's time for the Bureau to be more assertive. Quote, there's a responsibility here to be water mastered on the river or to get or it gets thrown into the Supreme Court, which could take years to work its way through, says Marcus. The beneficial use petition is one way to say, here's a tool you have, step up and consider it, basically.
It's like we've been wanting here for off what to be more assertive, to take a more active role, which is why Labour are fucking. Is it off what that they're gonna get rid of and replace? I think it was.
I believe it was off what, yeah, because the water regulator, yeah.
So like, basically, what we're talking about here is the same thing as what we're talking about here in the UK, where the water regulator actually needs to do its damn job instead of just rolling over for constantly for the wealthy.
Yeah, but it seems to be a lot of squabbling more than anything here when it comes to the use of the Colorado River there, rather than actually trying to work for a solution on this.
Yeah, actually, instead of coming together, it's going down to legislation and bickering.
And
it's like nobody cares about the land anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately, guys. Pagan correct. Uses masses of power. Yes, says Peak Music. Peter says 8% of California water use in agriculture there. Billy Kershaw says mass non-payments of bills. But it was salt water and killed all the greens, says Doc Davis. He says, our local golf course dug a borehole for the water for the course, but it was salt water and killed all the greens. He said there as well.
The desalination plants will be important, especially for coastal cities, so that they don't draw so much off of fresh water sources. But the counter to that, again, is the energy price for it. I mean, I know that Plymouth has a desalination plant. The noise that thing makes.
And I'll just go to this last comment. Peter Music said, Benjamin, you don't empty it, as in terms about emptying your pool. You replace the water by cycling fresh water whilst draining old water out. Actually, it uses more than a straight empty fill cycle. My uncle has a big pool, is what he says there.
Either way, that's like the swimming pools are still water intensive, and a lot of these places, like this is why I've always preferred the idea of communal swimming centres rather than just having one in your own back garden. I mean, it's nice to have a swimming pool in your back garden, I grant you. I've been to plenty of houses where there's a swimming pool in the back garden.
Yeah.
I get that it's a nice thing to have. But in the world we live now, it's becoming more and more a case of that's a luxury. And not only is it a luxury, it's harmful to the environment.
Benjamin,
and harmful to everyone else's water use.
Successive filters clear the water, says Jow. Benjamin also says it also ends up with super sanitized water brie when you have dumped somewhere. Desalinization is a bad option there.
It in some places it's likely to be the only option. So that they like that. Not only that, but we can improve the technology. We can improve the technology, but in some areas, desalinization is just necessary because otherwise we are overusing the rivers, as we've been talking about.
Unfortunately, so. Unfortunately, guys, we have gone well over 9:30. What I will do.
Sorry, I'm late. I'm so sorry I'm late.
It happens. It's fine. I will put links for the articles that we covered on the show today in the description once I've ended the live stream. I can't do it while we're live, guys. But I just want to say for those who did come, because quite a fair people did come, about 15 to 20 people on average are here. And I want to say thank you guys all for coming along. I really appreciate you guys giving your time to be here. I did wait 10 minutes to hoping you would come, and I thought, okay, I need to do something.
I was in the box, and I was like, oh god, no. And then like I come back in only to see the time. I'm like, oh, you are kidding me.
So, I'll plan another live stream next month for us, you guys. I'll probably it'll probably be this one was the 28th. Yeah. So this one will be on the 18th because I think on the 18th I need to check my. Pretty sure I've got a round table next month as well with Lee Corn on, but I'm planning to have Lee Corn on that one at the moment. Yes, I haven't had him for a while, and I was trying. Well, I did want to get Mikey Flanagan.
Mikey Flanagan, yes.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's just not going to happen because he hasn't contacted me. So I can't do anything about it, guys. I generally do want to have I do generally do want to have him on the show. I generally do.
I'll chuck him another message. See if he's busy parent as well.
Of course, he's a busy person. Lots of people are busy. You know, all I can do is put a message out there, an email out there, and ask. But at the moment, I've only got one guest on. But if I have to, if I don't have any, obviously, of course, I know Pagan would step in if need be, and Daily Blase if need be as well. But I'm going to try and get one or two other guests if possible. Guests as well, possible as well. But thank you guys all for coming along. Thank you guys for all your comments. Thank you, Peter M, for that £5 super chat. That really, really is appreciated. That alone makes the show worth it.
I like the picture of the dinosaur as well. I like the picture of the avian dinosaur as you pick as well. Nicely done.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Peter. Very much appreciate. So, guys, have a great evening, whatever you guys are doing. Take care of yourselves. I'll be back tomorrow live at 11 a.m. for another Good Morning show. Just a reminder that politics is returning to normality next week because I will be covering Prime Minister's questions next week. So they're all coming back from a holiday officially next week. So there'll be plenty to cover. Will not just be immigration all the time. Yes, we will have other stuff to talk about, guys. So take care, everyone. Have a good evening, whatever you guys are doing. But just before you head out, if you can, hit that like button, share this across social media, subscribe if you haven't already. Do check out One Angry Pagan's YouTube channel. Link for it is down in the description below. And do check out all my other links down in the description below if you can as well, guys. So we will catch you all very, very soon. So take care, guys, and good night.